Support for one nation is at 8%. The conservative poster boy of the Liberals has left to found his own right-wing party with blackjack and hookers, and President Trump is luring people towards the far right with lubricious photography. It is not a good time for poor old
Prime Minister Trump will...
Let me share with you an insight from the time that I spent on the far left wing. The coalition wins power in Australia more often than not, and a large part of the reason for this is the disunity of the left. Although I was quite far to the left and believed in a lot of Greens' policies, I felt firmly that the Greens Party needed to assimilate into the Labour Party or disband if the left was to stand any real chance at progress. Quite the opposite has happened. There has been an absolutely massive surge in popularity of the Greens and Independents, most of these votes coming out of Labour's pocket, and yet the coalition has lost and is continuing to lose ground. This is because the coalition is falling prey to precisely the same affliction which overran the left, factionalism. In the wake of the ascension of Turnbull, a political moderate, the strong right-wing arm supporting his jilted predecessor Tony Abbot have been a constant thorn in the side of the Liberal Party. This has been confounded by those so discontent at Turnbull's centrism that they have turned to one nation. Now, in a political environment in which a large number of crossbenchers make any goal almost impossible, and with support floundering to such an extent that he can scarce afford any more failure, Turnbull seems to have driven away Cory Bernardi, one of the people he most needed to keep peace with if he was to have a hope of reuniting the factions, and in the process created another crossbencher who will most likely turn into yet another rival right-wing party. I am all for the devolution of the two-party system into a more representative democracy. I love seeing independents elected, but it is critical to realize that support for members outside of the two major parties is now 29%, and yet we do not have the luxury of working outside of a two-party system. We still have a country dominated by the political agenda of one party or the other. The rise of factionalism simply makes it harder for them to get their agenda through, rather than making their agenda more balanced and sensible. We end up with nothing but a political loggerhead. And how do the voters make sense of this? What if they agree with Cory's far-right policy, but feel the need to vote Liberal in order to prevent Labour from winning a de facto government? This was a quandary I spent long scratching my head over during my time in the Labour/Greens camp, and it is not a pretty place to be. In the end, I believe the departure of Bernardi will not sound a death knell for the Liberal Party, but it is a resounding blow, and almost certainly the end of Malcolm Turnbull. It is possible that a resurgence of Tony Abbot will go a long ways towards healing this rift, and I imagine that is the direction the Libs will take. But I foresee a future from this turmoil where the balance of power between Labour and Liberal is much closer to a 50-50 split, and not a lot gets done under either of them. So my guess is we're going to see a slightly more lefty Australia. Slightly. What do you think?